Hi everybody, Joe here from Shutterspeak Photography. Very nice to see your smiling face again here on YouTube. Hey, thanks for leaving that webcam on as always so I can see you smiling back at me. Hey, so Skylum is about to release Luminar Neo Update 2. That's version 1.2.0. It should be out in a couple of days, but I do have a preview build of it. Now, this is not the final version. It's not the version that you're going to have in your hands, but it is pretty much the way you're going to see it. And this is one of the first times that Skylum's ever let us show the UI before the release date. So I'm pretty excited about getting to do that with you. So I'll show you how the HDR Merge tool works, and I'll show you how the Dodge and Burn tool works. I think you're going to be pretty happy with this update. So, hey, getting the HDR Merge tool as an add-on is really just a great sign of things to come, I think. And I think you're going to agree too, because there's just going to be more and more, hopefully, that Skylum's going to add to this product that's going to make it better and better and better. So, hey, before we get started, I'd like to say thank you for watching. And of course, if anything in this video helps you out, please help me out by hitting like, subscribe, and of course, ring the bell so you get notified of future updates to this channel. I appreciate it. And of course, it's something nice you can do for me if this video helps you out. And best of all, it's free. Hey, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at Luminar Neo Update 2. And here we are, folks. This is Luminar Neo Update 2. Thank you, Skylum. Thank you. And I think it's important to note that although, we here in the United States certainly are seeing what's going on in the Ukraine, let's just take a moment to realize that the Skylum employees, by the way, Skylum is located in Ukraine, have gotten this update together despite the fact that they are under tremendous adversity with the war going on in Ukraine. So just want to say thank you to all the Skylum staff for pumping this out despite all the challenges that you're facing in your region. So, hey, let me show you folks really quick how the HDR Merge tool works. I think you're going to really like it. So I have 3 images here. The first is taken at EV0. Then I have here I believe +2, and then it should be the -2. And you can actually see that reflected right here. So this is -2. If I click on this one, we look over here. That's 2 EV, so that's +2 EV. And then here is 0. So in case you're not familiar with HDR, the way you would do it is, the purpose of it is to increase the dynamic range that the camera is capable of seeing. So you can see in this first picture here, this is the 0 normal exposure, and the rocks are very dark in the front, and as is the dock. In this next one, this is 2 stops overexposed, and you can see we have nice details here in the rocks and in the dock as well on these boats. This is 2 stops underexposed, and you see how great the capture is of the sky. So the process, of course, is to blend these together, the best parts of each one, to get the dynamic range that we would have seen with the naked eye, because the camera is not capable of capturing the range that the human eye can see. But by using a technique like HDR, we can merge 3 exposures taken at the same time together to get a beautiful high dynamic range image. So all you got to do is select your 3 images and then just simply drag them over to this HDR Merge tool. Now, you're not going to have this tool, okay, if, of course, you haven't purchased the add-on. But if you have purchased it, all you have to do is go here and click on this little puzzle piece. And once you do that, you're going to see this open up. And yes, I know that is written in a foreign language, but I'm sure that will be fixed well before you see it, folks. But that is, of course, sometimes what happens when you're showing pre-release software. And again, I have to thank Skylum for putting their trust in us to be able to show you the software before it's released to the public. And you're going to see HDR Merge here, and you'll just have to hit that install button. Of course, you're going to need a license for it. So if you install it and you don't purchase a license, it's not going to work. If you're on the subscription, you're going to get it for free. And if you had Aurora HDR previously, if you had purchased it, the newer version, not the older version, which I think was the last version was like 2019, you're going to get this for free. So thank you, Skylum, for that as well. So you'll just hit that install button. It will install. You put in your license key and you're good to go. Once it is installed, select your 3 images that you want to merge, and then just drag them over to the box and drop them in. And now you're going to see I have EV -2, EV 0, EV +2, which is exactly what I would want for a high dynamic range image. It doesn't have to be 2 stops, folks. If you could do 5 at -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, that's fine. You know, if you were flying a DJI drone, they're like plus 0.7 and then, you know, plus 1.4. So as long as the increments are, you know, evenly spaced out, this should work great. You're going to see a little gear here, and you can click on this gear and auto alignment. These are taken on a tripod, so I don't need auto alignment per se, but always a good thing to have. And then ghost reduction, because the waves probably did move from shot to shot. And it's going to ask me, hey, which image do you want to use as the reference for the waves? So I'm going to pick this middle image here, which is the 0, which it's showing here, the 0.0, and the amount of ghosting reduction. We have a couple of choices here, and I'm going to go with medium, which is the default. And I could have easily swapped this if I wanted the underexposed or the overexposed image for the water detail, but I'm going to stick with the 0. So basically what this is saying is if there's anything moving, which image should we take that moving thing from? So I'm going to take it from this 0, which is usually a good choice. All right, I hit that gear to confirm all that, and then just hit merge. And now Luminar Neo is going to start working its magic. I'm not sure if it's using any AI here or not, but it does take a few minutes for this to run, and I am on a pretty beefy system. But again, by the time you see this, it may be a little bit tweaked for speed, but it did take me maybe a minute or so. So what we'll do is I'm going to just jump to the finished merged image so I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so the image has now been merged. By the way, you can do anywhere from 1 all the way up to 10 photos in the HDR Merge. Now, if you're doing just 1, of course, it's not doing any merging per se, but what it is doing is it's going to tone map that file to try and make it look like a high dynamic range image to the best of its ability. So anywhere from 1 all the way up to as many as 10 images can be placed into here. So these photos will go into its own little folder here called HDR Merge, so you'll know where your merged photos are. And here is the one that we merged, and it looks like Neo did an absolutely outstanding job of this. I mean, really a beautiful merge here, right? And now all we got to do, of course, is either go into our presets or edit, and we can start working on this photo. So if I wanted to go into presets, I could do that, and maybe, you know, I'll go with landscapes, and I mean, this is definitely a sunset. So let's see what the sunset preset does for us, and, you know, we'll see if that kind of brings this image to life. And I mean, it certainly brightens things up a little bit, and, you know, maybe it's a little bit more than I would want per se, but hey, you know what, overall, you know, it certainly does a nice job with the sky and stuff. So, of course, now you can feel free to bounce into edit and, you know, just go through all the things that you would normally go through with editing this image. You know, you can play around with the sky, but I don't think I would swap out the sky. I mean, that was the whole point. Certainly do a little accent, maybe a little sky enhancement here. That might look nice. And again, just the same things that you would normally do with this image. Okay, and of course now we can maybe do a little, let's see what that looks like. We'll brighten things up a little bit in the sky, etc. So again, same things that you would always do, but of course now we have, where did it go? Down here, dodge and burn as well. So now I can dodge and burn this image to really give it a little bit more dimension. And so I'll quickly go over how that works in regards to a landscape, and then we're going to look at how it works on a portrait as well, which is very similar. Okay, so we are here in the dodge and burn tool, and we're just going to take a quick look at how this works. So it's not the same as what you would have used in the old school dodge and burn Photoshop tools. And when people say dodge and burn, That's what I always think of, and nobody really uses those tools, I don't think, much in Photoshop anymore. Certainly people dodge and burn in Photoshop all the time, but they're using brushes and layers and layer styles to accomplish that because it can do a better job and it's non-destructive. And so that's what Neo is in terms of dodging burning. It's something that you can brush on and you can scale back and scale forward as much as you like to taste in a non-destructive way. And if you don't like it, you can just remove it and you can go to edits and just take it away. So let's look at first lightening some parts of the image. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can approach this. You can dial in the amount that you want right away or right off the bat by using the amount slider here. Okay, so let's say we start at maybe around 30%, which is probably going to be a good number. And let's make this tool a little smaller so we have a little bit more control. And, you know, we have some softness and strength sliders here to control how much of the brightness that we're putting on. So when we're dodging, we're adding brightness, and when we're burning, we're adding darkness. Why? Well, because this is a two-dimensional image, and we want it to pop off the page. And the way we do that is to make it more of a three-dimensional image by adding in shadows and highlights, because shadows and highlights are what give things depth. You know, that's how we perceive depth, and by shadows and highlights. Our brain just knows this, but by adding more shadows and highlights to a two-dimensional image, we can make it appear more three-dimensional. So let's add some highlights. So I'm just going to go over the bright spots here. I'm just going to gently paint it in. Maybe a little over here, a little over here. You know, top of these rocks. Top of the rock here. Maybe over there. Top of the bird right there. And, you know, actually I probably really would have to go in really tight and do the top of the bird. If I really wanted to do it correctly, I would have to do them like right over there. And so, I mean, it's very subtle, but let's take a look. That's without it. That's with it. Okay. Take a look at the rocks. Now, I'm going to go out of this tool. Okay. And I'm going to go back in. Why? Because now I want to darken and I want it to appear in my edits tab. So it's already here. Okay. So now when I go in and edit and now darken, I'm going to have a separate tab in my edit system so that I could dial back or tweak both the highlights and the shadows separately. So if I didn't like something, I can go back and control it. So I'm going to go back down to about 30% again, because that worked out pretty well the first time. And I'm just going to do some of these shadows, right? So right in there, back of these rocks, right? Up in here, give it a little more depth. Bottom of these rocks here, right? They're going to have a lot of shadows. These are in dark areas down here. So the sun's coming in, right? So anything behind the sun is not going to get a lot of light. It's going to be in a shadow. And now we're going to do like the bottoms of these waves here. And let's get the back of the bird and get his shadow area there. All right, so, and if it was too much, I can just dial it back a little bit. And let's just take a look at the before and after, okay? So that's before. Now we added in the shadows, before and after. Now, I wish I could show you both simultaneously, but unfortunately we'd have to go into the Edits tab, and there's no way for me to shut off both at the same time. But you see now I have two dodge and burn entries in my Edits tab so that I can go back and control either one of these if I didn't like what I did. So we're just giving things a little bit more depth so they appear a little bit more three-dimensional and pop off the page. It's just a subtle tweak, but it's the subtle tweaks that really make a difference in your photos that are going to make it rise above what everybody else is doing. Okay, so let's take a look next at using dodge and burn on a portrait. Okay, so we are here now in Neo again, and we have a portrait up. And what we want to do now is basically we want to shape the face using dodge and burn. So we're going to add highlights and shadows to sculpt the face so this image looks, again, more three-dimensional. Now, there's a lot we can do with this image. I certainly would darken the background and all sorts of things, but it's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're trying to demonstrate here. So I'm just going to go in first off, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the face so we have a little bit more room to work. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we are going to dial this back again, maybe around 25 or so. That sounds good. And we're going to brush in some highlights. Okay. Now, if, and I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. Generally, men have a little bit harder time with this because, well, a lot of women are very good at applying makeup. Men, not as good. Some men, of course, are great at applying makeup. And if you're great at applying makeup, that doesn't apply to you. Don't be offended. But think of it as, like, if you're a woman, think of it as applying makeup. Men, think of it the same way. So what people do when they apply makeup is they try and accent the highlights and the shadows of the face to make it look more angular and more well-defined. And that's what we're doing here. So we're going to brighten up this area. We're going to brighten up this area, the bridge of the nose, the forehead. And now we're going to darken this area here to give more structured, sculpted cheekbones. And so we're going to go back out. I'm going to go back in again, and I'm going to go to darken. And now we're going to bring this down again, maybe 20% or so, 25, somewhere in there. And I'm going to darken right here. I'm going to darken over here. Nope, that looks like a little too much. Let's take that back. I'm going to darken all around the face here. I'm going to darken right under that chin to give a nice structured jawline. I'm going to bring it in here. Do a little right there. And we're going to just darken up the eyebrows. And the eyelashes, rather, and the eyebrows as well. Okay, and you see how nicely that works, okay? And now, you can still dial this back a little bit if it was a little bit too much. Okay, but let's just take a look at before the shadows and now after the shadows. And that's all we're doing is we're sculpting the face. So let's take a look. Fit the screen. Before and the after. And again, we can dial this back a little bit in spots. If it got into some spots that we didn't necessarily like, we could just go here with the erase tool. So let's say I hit a little bit too much on the side here, which I definitely did. I can go in right over here and just erase the darken away right there. Just pull that a little bit back. Okay, now let's go back to fit. And again, before, after. Okay, so that's basically how dodge and burn works with a face. Again, think of it as sculpting. You're trying to create highlights and shadows to make the face look more sculpted. Now, let's say I thought the highlights were a little too much. I can still go back over here in my Edits tab and bring down my highlights. So it's a little weird the way this works, but if I just bring it down to 98, it's going to actually kind of jump it up. So we were at about 25. If I wanted to bring it back to about 17 or so, that should do it. So let's take a look. Before and after. Maybe bring it up a little bit more. Before and after. Okay, so we're just adding those highlights and those shadows again to give that more angular appearance to the face and the more sculptured appearance. So that's dodge and burn in action on a portrait. So overall, I think the tool works great. I think you're going to be very happy with it. Okay, so that's everything, folks. Let's just quick go over the pricing. If you don't have HDR Merge, it's $49. Right now, if you're buying it with a bundle with Neo, Neo's on sale for $89. You're getting Merge for $49, and you're getting the HDR Mega Pack, which is a bunch of presets for it, for free. If you have the subscription, you're going to get it for free. If you have Neo but you don't have Aurora, you're going to have to pay $49, but it's definitely worth it for sure. And if you did have Aurora, again, you're going to get this for free. So this is really great. A couple of things that maybe Skylum needs to think about is getting some presets right off the bat in for HDR. Again, if you're doing something like real estate and you need a very natural look, Aurora did have a preset for that, which I know a lot of real estate photographers loved. So I think we're going to see definitely improvement on the HDR Merge plugin down the line as well. So, but right off the gate, it works great. It works with all the presets, and you can just edit to your heart's content. I mean, it's pretty much the functional equivalent of what Aurora was, and with the added benefit of it's new and it's going to have updates. Whereas Aurora, I don't think there was ever an update to the last version of Aurora HDR. So a lot of good things on the horizon for this, and hopefully other great plugins coming down the road. I mean, who knows what's next? So thank you, Skylum. Be careful, be safe, be well. So that's it, folks. If you enjoy this, please hit like, subscribe, and if you follow the channel, you know that if you leave a comment, I'm going to leave a comment. And if you're not on the Facebook group, I'm going to leave you a link down below in the video description. Join our Facebook group. We have a very supportive Luminar Neo Facebook group, just filled with people that are just really, really passionate about making this the best product that they can. I always wanted to give feedback to Skylum, and always trying to make the product better and helping each other out. So, hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube. Bye-bye.